I have to also say that when you're released from prison, your loved ones were doing time right along with you. They just weren't in your cell.
The right conversation can change everything. This is Mirror Talk, Soulful Conversations.
Before we begin, if you value deep conversations that help you reflect, grow, and live with greater purpose, subscribe to Mirror Talk and leave us a rating. It takes just a few seconds, but it helps these conversations reach someone who may need them today.
Today on Mirror Talk Soulful Conversations, we welcome a minister, author, trauma-informed coach, and founder of the Shame-Free Life Coaching and Consulting. After experiencing incarceration, compounded trauma, grief, loss, and rejection, he began the difficult work of rebuilding his life and reclaiming his identity. Today, he helps men move beyond shame, regulate their emotions, rediscover their personal power, and build meaningful lives after trauma. Zion, welcome to Mirror Talk. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Toby. It's good to be here with you in the studio of Mirror Talk. I'm excited.
Thank you so much for joining me for Soulful Conversation. I'm looking so much forward to learning from your life journey. While preparing for this, I was like reading about, incarceration and trauma and grief. I was like, wow, that's a lot for a person to go through. And that I commend your strengths and, I would say your resilience to pull through and to be using all of that experience to help people out there. And we'll be going into all of these experiences of yours shortly. But before we do that, I'd like us to get to know you through a game of wild cards. So we'll have the opportunity to ask you 3 random questions. First question will be from our icebreakers card. As I'm talking to you right now, I'm multitasking. I'm shuffling the first stack of cards, and I'm going to pick a card randomly from our icebreakers level. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
The first question is, what motivates you in life? What motivates you in life?
What motivates me in life?
Yes.
Becoming the very best version that I can be by helping others. I'm actually helping myself. So to answer your question, helping others, that's a huge motivator for me.
I like that. Being of service to others. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yes.
That's awesome. Are you ready for the next wildcard question?
Yes, I'm ready for question 2.
Yeah. Question 2, yes. So this is our confessions level. And the question is, what are you afraid to let go?
What am I afraid to let go of? Sometimes I can be somewhat of a perfectionist. I really believe in excellence. I think that we got to operate in the spirit of excellence. And I have to learn balance more. So sometimes I have to let go of certain responsibilities and allow someone else to do it instead of trying to do everything all at once or everything myself. So sometimes I have to learn to just release responsibility to others that they can do a job or a much better job than I.
Just release responsibilities, delegate, just let other people do it and close your eyes and don't think about it not being perfect.
Right.
That could be challenging.
It's perfect. Right.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for that. Are you ready for the last wildcard question? That's level
Yes.
3, getting
Yes.
deep. Also in the same line. And the question is, are you holding onto something you need to let go of?
Am I holding on to something that I need to release?
Yes.
Sometimes, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, I will release or let go of being wronged in some kind of way, and I'll just let it go and I'll move on. Then it will pop back up again, and I'm challenged in that area. Do I want to hold on to it or let it go? So sometimes it's a tug of war, but I think that overall, probably just releasing any past wrongdoings that I have been impacted by. So
Yeah.
I've been pretty successful, but sometimes it'll pop back up again just when I thought that I have released it, and I'm challenged in that area again. And I have to remind myself, okay, you released that 6 months ago, 6 days ago, 6 hours ago. So go ahead and just let it go. So I think that would be my answer.
Yeah, that's very relatable. Sometimes we get, triggered, or sometimes I believe sometimes I've let go of something and all of a sudden it's coming back again and crippling back and I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? Yeah. And then gradually let go of it again. And I think I've noticed that sometimes I don't entirely let go of everything. Maybe a part of it I let go of, and a part still remains, which I don't know about. And then something comes up, and then the rest, comes up again, and gradually let go of it. Yeah, it's a process. It's a whole process. Yeah. Thank you so much for answering our wildcard questions. Now I've gotten to know you a little bit, other than what I've read about you and, found out about you. And before we talk about everything that you have overcome and built, who is the man behind the titles, the accomplishment, and the experience? And what would you want most people out there to understand about your art?
Yes, I'm a person with a huge heart, a big heart. There's a depth of empathy and compassion that runs through my DNA when it comes to people. I hate to see people wronged, and we talked about that in one of the previous questions as far as releasing certain things that are triggered. I'm always rooting for the underdog, and wherever there's an underdog, you would find me cheering that person on. I love to see people become the best version of themselves, whether I'm involved or not. That's something that really fuels me, and it gets me going, and it pushes me beyond any self limitations that I have erected in my own life. So I think those are some of the things that I would like for people to know about myself and what's really important to me.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I'm actually speaking with you on this episode, because I know you've experienced trauma, incarceration. You're helping people out there to deal with their trauma, to overcome, to work with their grief and all of that. And you describe trauma, loss, grief, and rejection as bricks that life threw at us. So can you take us into that season when those bricks felt heaviest, and what helped you believe that your life could be built up again?
Yes, good question. I think I would have to go back to my time of being incarcerated. That was a time when I was a college student working two jobs, working for a major bank at that time, working for a major insurance company, and raising my daughter. So I raised my daughter with the help of my mother and my grandmother from age 1 to 11. So in trying to prove my innocence in the court of law, to no avail, I was incarcerated for 5 years and 1 month of my life. That was, other than losing my mother, who transitioned in 2020, I would have to say that was the most devastating, broken, horrific time in my human existence on this planet. To be taken from my daughter that I was responsible for raising. We were not only, family, she my daughter, obviously, I'm the father, but we were best friends. And to be snatched from her and to be placed in a dehumanizing culture that is abnormal, and there's violence all around you, it changed me. It changed me from the college student that I was, the productive employee, the son that I was, the dad that I was. It changed me neurologically. And so that, I would have to say, again, other than the transition, the death of my mother, that was the most horrific and hard time for me. And I carried so many bricks, and we'll probably get into it, but bricks after prison. See, a lot of people may see me and they see the achievement, but they have no idea what had to transpire to get to this place. And I'm still being molded. I'm still healing. But I had to unpack a lot of bricks in my life that I was carrying for years after prison.
Yeah. For someone out there who is going through something similar right now, maybe still in prison or just out of prison, what word of encouragement would you like to share with them?
Absolutely. Post-incarceration syndrome is real. The acronym is PICS, P-I-C-S. It was coined by Terrence Gorski, and he began to talk about the reality of trauma that many men and women have unbeknownst to them after prison. And there are 5 core components that comes with post-incarceration syndrome. There is post-traumatic stress disorder. There's personality disorder. There is antisocial disorder. There is institutionalization. And of course, there is social sensory deprivation. And then finally, addiction or codependency. My advice would be to, regardless of how many years you have been incarcerated, it would do you well and serve you well as those who are around you who love you the most, to seek therapy. That was something that I had to do. I had to find a therapist, and not just any therapist, because all therapists are not created equal. There's some therapists that they have a specification in trauma. So it is very important to seek the therapeutic help from a trauma licensed and experienced therapist to help you unravel all of the things that you have seen, that you have heard, that you have experienced while you were away, so that you can be a much better version of yourself and be on the road to healing.
Yeah, and that's very important, to seek help, like from a professional, from the therapist, and the right one. That is experienced in in such a case, because I think not everyone will be able to understand or relate or give the best advice or the right safe space.
Yes.
For that situation.
Yes, absolutely.
So, I mean, you've answered this question already, but I would just like to ask again. Maybe there are more insights you'd like to share, because I know that after your release from prison in 2004, I know you experienced a lot of emotional and practical challenges, and while you are also trying to create a new life, to rebuild your life also. And there's something you mentioned earlier. You talked about being in prison changes you in a lot of ways. So I'd like to know how you began to separate your identity from your past, change your life back from everything that prison had done to you, basically. Like, how are you able to let go of all of that past and then find yourself again and separate your past from your life now?
Yes, absolutely. Great question, Toby. So when I was released from prison, I have to also say that when you're released from prison, your loved ones were doing time right along with you. They just weren't in your cell. They were not in on your prison compound. But when you were locked up, they were locked up as well. And so there are a lot of dynamics that come into play regarding vicarious trauma. Vicarious trauma is like secondary trauma, where you hear about something that's traumatic and it traumatizes you. Well, just imagine if your son, your daughter, your mother, your father, your loved one, now they are in prison, and now that relationship has been fractured because of prison. And so you are going through a traumatic episode yourself vicariously. So when I look at the years that was spent when I was released, I had some telltale signs of post-traumatic, not just stress, but post-incarceration syndrome. I was always paranoid, always looking over my shoulder. Going into a restaurant, well, I always have to face the door because I want to be able to see incoming danger or pending danger. Because again, you are around danger 24/7. That can cost you your life. And so there are multiple stabbings that I have seen. And so aggravated, startled response, always hypervigilant. And neurologically, I touched on it earlier, how it actually alters neurological circuitries in the brain. For example, the prefrontal cortex is responsible for emotional regulation. So it is basically a part in the brain that says, hey, listen, just chill. It's really not that serious. You don't have to respond that way. Maybe they didn't mean it that way. You have the ability to self-regulate, and you have emotional balance. Well, that part of the brain becomes affected because of the introduction and the experience of trauma. Also, the part of the brain, the hippocampus, which is basically a biological or neurological alarm system. It alerts you that there is danger. That's where fight, flight, or freeze come from. So just imagine that for 5 years, 10 years, 15, 25 years, or 30 years, that you have been introduced to a culture and a system that is abnormal, and you have to adjust to it in order to survive. You can't go in and show any humanity. You have to suppress all humanity. You have to suppress all of your God-giving feelings. You have to submerge it and not touch it because you may appear to be weak. And if you appear to be weak before the wrong person, now you become a prey. So it's very difficult for a man or a woman to come out of that environment when you had to, first of all, filter out everything that is very normal, and you have to adjust to something that is abnormal and learn that behavior. You have to learn the code. You have to learn the thought pattern. So you basically become a student to incarceration. So now to just flip the light switch on, once they release you from prison and open the gate and just say, hey, see you later, have a good life. It doesn't work that way, because now those aggravated startled responses, the night dreams, the nightmares, the flashbacks, the triggers, the antisocial behavior, because you're confined in a cell and you're looking at people suspiciously when they walk up to you, because they are invading the space that they should not invade, because you didn't have to worry about that when you're in your cell by yourself. There's a whole new neurological learning curve that's got to take place. So to respond to your question, it took me 15 years. I served 5 years in prison, but it took me 15 to 20 years to bounce back, to be placed on a road of healing. So I would just say that it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be some of the hardest work from a psychological, emotional, spiritual place that you have ever visited, but it's well worth it. You have to participate in your own healing, because we cannot expect a system that is committed to house you to somehow heal you. They cannot. They're not designed to. So we have to take the reins of our own healing and move into a direction where we can be completely whole, spirit, soul, and body. And I'll just say this and digress, that when we talk about trauma, there are many definitions to it, but I look at even when I'm speaking to my clients, it is a wound to your soul. The soul makes up your mind, your will, and your emotions. And whenever there's a fragmentation that takes place in the soul, a laceration that takes place in the soul, it takes time to heal. If you were to break your leg if someone were to, not you, but if someone were to break their leg tomorrow, it is foolish for us to think, Toby, that person will be healed in a week. Yeah. Especially if it's a compound fracture. A compound fracture is on a whole nother depth and scale of severity than a hairline fracture. A hairline fracture is bad, but you can heal from that. A compound fracture, where the bone penetrates the skin, will require surgery. So it takes longer. It takes more rehab. It takes more physical therapy to learn how to walk again, to learn how to stand again, to learn how to now have the confidence in your own body to now walk in a regenerated healing state. So it takes time. As it does for a broken arm or a broken leg, so is the same principle when it comes to a broken soul.
Yeah. Wow, that's very deep. Like, it takes longer for us to heal it takes longer for something to be built than for it to be destroyed. And I never thought about it that way. And thank you so much for shining so much light on that. When you said, it took you 3 to 4 times longer to actually heal, or you to be on the healing journey than you spent in prison itself, I was like, wow. I never thought about it that way. I was like, you're out, and in some months you're back on your feet and your life is moving. Like I see in the movies, basically, like, okay, you're out and then you're out. But it takes longer to heal and to recover and to get your neurological pathways or neural pathways fixed again. Yeah.
Yes.
Or rewired. Wow. And something that comes up for me right now, when you're talking about this, and please, you could shine some light on it, is, a lot of people go into prison. It also being, it's a symbol or figure for something else, maybe not physical prison also, but we go through different things in our lives, and it leads to shame, because we are ashamed of what we've experienced and what we've gone through, or what we are coming out from, or going through, basically. And, shame often tells people that something is fundamentally wrong with you. Like, why did you have to experience that or go through that? Something must have been wrong with you. So I'd just like to learn from you, like, how does shame take roots after trauma, rejection, addiction, incarceration, or failure? And why can it be so difficult? Why can it be so difficult to speak about it?
Absolutely. That's a very good question, because shame is something that we all have been introduced to one time or another in life. Shame is something that we always try to avoid, but it's almost like a common cold. You can avoid it for years, and then the next thing you know, you're at the gym or you're at the mall, someone sneezes, and the next thing you know, you're coughing and you just caught what they had. Shame is the same way. I think that shame is very paralyzing, because shame, there's a difference between shame and guilt. Guilt means that, I did wrong or I said something that was wrong, but shame says that I am wrong. So we begin to believe a narrative from a critical voice that we battle with oftentimes internally, that you're wrong, that you're unworthy, you're unloved, you're beyond help. And we begin to internalize this internal voice. And before we know it, we are completely paralyzed in a place. We're stuck and unable to move forward. And one thing about shame, though we make a lot of advancements in life as far as business, becoming an entrepreneur, using talents and gifts to move into a place of prominence, maybe academics, going to school. Listen, I was going to school and I had I finished and graduated with my bachelor's degree after prison, my master's degree after prison, with an array of certifications: trauma-informed coach, professional life coach, and also a sexual addiction recovery coach. With all of that, I was still battling with shame. And so a lot of times we try to medicate shame instead of eradicating it. Shame is designed for us to be paralyzed and unable to move in life with the confidence and the velocity that we need to complete our assignment on this planet. It's very paralyzing. And wherever you find shame, you will also find addiction or codependency, because shame will even have us believe that you're incapable of making the right decision. So you always need someone else to make a decision for you, because you can't trust your own judgment, because the last time you made a decision, this happened or that happened. So if you don't want those things to happen, then you need someone else to basically guide you throughout life. And it's almost as if we are blind, like a blind man or blind woman being led everywhere by someone that you trust, because we no longer trust our own judgment. That's one of the attributes of shame.
Yeah. I thank so much for sharing that. We need help when it comes to dealing with shame. And like you said correctly, which is very, very true. Whenever we're experiencing shame, it's always like the roots for addictions also, because we're trying to run away from it, hide from it, or try to cover it up, for example. And that leads us into doing things that are even more dangerous or hurtful to ourselves. Yeah.
Absolutely. And also with shame, there's a level or depth of people pleasing, to please others at the sacrifice of our own happiness, just so we can be, quote unquote, accepted by others. We tend to value how others think about us, how they feel about us, over our own view of ourselves. And that's a very dangerous place to be, because the same person that praised you on Monday can be the same person on Tuesday or Wednesday that give you thumbs down.
Yeah.
So, it's extremely paralyzing and debilitating.
Wow. And is there a point in our lives where we could say, I think I've done the work and I'm no longer experiencing shame again? Can that point in our life come, or is something you have to deal with till you leave this planet?
Another outstanding question, Toby. So I think for many people, it really depends on the depth of your pain and your trauma, that it gets much better and you're able to see the triggers and not be ashamed of the triggers, but you can see the trigger and you can move into a position of self-regulation, emotional regulation. Okay, this is triggering, but this is not me. This is triggering, but this has nothing to do with that happened 10 years ago. This is something different. So therefore, you understand your identity and you guard it from all triggers. I think that there is a place and a space that we can get to to whereas shame has lost its power over our lives. And whenever we encounter shame, we're no longer ruled and governed by it because we understand our own self-worth. We understand that we do have a purpose on this planet. We understand that we're not here just by osmosis, but God loves us so much that he gave us an assignment. He gave us a purpose. And regardless of what happens, that we're responsible for that purpose and that you have everything on the inside of you to make it happen. And I think that we can get to that place. It's a very radical place to be. It's a place of liberation. And I think that for many people, that can be a reality, regardless of what other people may think or say.
And it all starts with us knowing about our identity, knowing who we are and guiding it. And whatever triggers us, we, say, oh, this is not me. This is not who I am. Yeah. And talking about identity, I got to find out that, you speak about manhood being hijacked and later restored. And I would just like to learn about this. What experiences or beliefs cause men to disconnect from their true identity, from their authentic identity? And what does healthy, healed manhood look like to you?
Absolutely. So I think that when we look at society, we cannot look at society and garner or gain any type of helpful tips or suggestions when it comes to manhood. Society has no clue whatsoever, by and large, because many of the things that society whispers in the ear of men, we have done and we have made mistakes after mistake after mistake. Oftentimes we pursue money. You need money to live, to live. Absolutely. We pursue the things that we're taught and that we're ingrained and indoctrinated that this is what a man's supposed to have. This is what a man is supposed to drive. If you don't drive a foreign car, something is wrong with you. If you don't live in a gated community, you really haven't succeeded. If you don't have X amount of money in your bank account or various financial portfolios, you are a failure. If you don't wear a certain designer clothes, apparel, shoes, etc., you're just a bum. And so, and there's so many people, so many men with our own insecurity issues, shame-based issues, that we gravitate to what society dictates and it becomes our narrative. So we spend the rest of our lives chasing these things that have nothing to do with healing, nothing to do with wholeness, nothing to do with trauma recovery, but it becomes a Band-Aid. Toby, I challenge you. If you saw someone cutting down a tree and they accidentally lost control of the chainsaw and that chainsaw cut their arm nearly off, would you put a Band-Aid on top of that and think that that person is okay?
No.
Of course not. That injury requires immediate attention in the ER and then the OR, operating room, not a Band-Aid. A Band-Aid will not help. Neither will our cars, our money, the women, the bad partners that we have. It's nothing more than a Band-Aid over a bloody mess that needs to be healed. So true manhood to me is self-discovery, self-awareness, identity that is connected to our purpose. It's not connected to you being experienced. It's not connected to all of the failures that you've had in your life. It has nothing to do with that. So when we get to a much better place of understanding our identity that's connected to a purpose, that you may not be responsible for what happened to you, but you are responsible for your own healing, then we can remove and take off the table all of the things that society says that we're supposed to have. And because they're nothing more than Band-Aids, because now we understand who we are, and that's going to require some surgery. And now we're looking at what a whole man truly is.
Yes. I really like your illustration, with the bandage and, the chainsaw injury, because a lot of us have been taught to suppress pain rather than understand it. Like, we don't know if the pain that we are going through requires going to the OR, to the operating room, or it requires just a bandage. We just, suppress everything and just, let it be a man and be strong. You don't have to, feel the pain or whatnot. But what I'm learning from you right now is that we actually need to understand it and know what the right thing to do about it. And earlier you talked about regulation, like emotional regulation also. And I'd like to learn about that. Like, for a listener out there who does not know what emotional regulation means, like, Can you explain a little bit better to that listener? Like, how can they use emotional regulation to process their pain better, to understand it better without suppressing them?
Yeah, great question, Toby. So let me give an example of emotional regulation. I think this is something that you can that we can visualize, regardless if you live in Africa, or the United States, or in Europe. Just picture you're driving down the street at the speed at the speed required speed limit, and there's someone who is right there on your bumper. So you speed up a little bit, and they're right there on your bumper. But there are 4 open lanes right beside you that they could easily go into, and they can get to their destination at warp speed instead of just relying on your bumper to try to push you off of the freeway.
Yeah.
And so this person erratically just swerved right beside you, cut in front of you, just inches of hitting you, and they take off. Well, that was erratic behavior, that was recklessness, and that was lawlessness on the road. Now, a person who doesn't have emotional regulation will speed up to try to catch this person that offended them, giving them the bird or whatever the case may be. Hey, let's pull over. We can fight this out. How dare you cut me off? You could have hit me. And so now, instead of de-escalating, they have escalated, because perhaps in the person's mind who was pursued by the erratic driver, that it was a flashback of being wronged. It was a flashback of somebody taking advantage of them. It was a flashback of somebody implementing injustice upon them. And so it took them back to 8th grade. It took them back to 12th grade. It took them back to 7 years old or college, of a situation that had nothing to do with that road rage experience. But what emotional regulation does, it begins to compartmentalize. Okay, this happened. I don't like it. That person is crazy. That person is reckless. But I'm just glad that I'm safe. Emotional regulation will be able to compartmentalize it in such a way that we can balance our emotions, so we won't go overboard as the next person. Emotional regulation prevents us from accelerating when we need to slow down. I'm not going to speed up. I'm not going to challenge this person. I'm not going to pull out a gun and we have a gunfight on the freeway. I'm not doing that. I'm just going to let that person go. The cops will catch him, 2 blocks away. But I'm fine. My family is fine. We're not harmed. But that's emotional regulation. You have the ability to be able to add balance in your life in a time where you can, by choice, escalate. Instead, you de-escalate. Now, I'm not saying to just be a roadmap. I mean, a doormat for someone without standing up for your rights. But I'm talking about situations where it's a very critical situation. You have a split-second decision to make. What are you going to do? Are you going to, de-escalate or escalate? And there's a choice, and there comes consequences with both. And so emotional regulation allows us to have balance, to be able to think things through without overreacting and doing something rash that could be more harmful than not.
Yeah. Taking that time out to actually evaluate the situation, think before acting, before responding to a situation.
Yes.
Thanks for that example, because a lot of us, sometimes we want to react and show that, yes, I'm also a man, or I'm a human being. I have my rights. I know my rights. And, sometimes we escalate things and make things worse than they should be. Yeah. It takes some sense of humility also, and just letting go. Like, when you are saying that, I was like remembering the wildcard questions, like 2 questions about letting go. And I was like, okay, that's, I guess, so I just letting go sometimes.
An example.
Yeah, letting go of your rights, letting go of being right also as a person. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I'd like us to talk about your book, which I can see on your table right here, The Brick Method. You created the Brick Method as a blueprint for rebuilding after loss. And we've talked about this a little bit in the course of this conversation. But I'd like you to walk us through the heart of this methodology and explain how someone can begin using the very experiences that wounded them as materials for rebuilding.
Absolutely. So the Brick Method, it started out as a book, as you can see, but it became a course and a community for men. oftentimes we experience loss, grief, trauma in our lives is very catastrophic. And it's almost like a home that is destroyed by a hurricane or a tornado. And when you get back to the site of this home that you put a lot of sweat equity in, you put a lot of money in, and you inherit this home from your grandparents, now you're standing around at ground zero. And what used to be a beautiful 2-story home is now nothing but just rubble, bricks everywhere. You can't even tell where the front door is. It's nothing but just rubble. And oftentimes as men, when we have something devastating that happens in our lives, we will begin to just pick up those bricks, picking up the pieces of what used to be whole, and we put it in a backpack, and we put that backpack on our back, and we just continue life. We go to work with 200 pounds on our back. We go to church with 300 pounds on our back. We go out on dates with 500 pounds on our back. And so we have become, unfortunately, accustomed to wearing a lot of weight on ourselves. Nobody can see the bricks, but we can feel it. And so the brick method is designed to help men unpack that backpack. I will help you. I will assist you. You unzip that zipper on that backpack, and let's begin to unpack those bricks that you've been carrying so that you can rebuild. And I really believe that whatever happens to us in our lives, especially the things that are just, that were just horrific, terrible things that happen, either we can stand around and we can just look at the damage, assess the damage. We can have memories of how things used to be, or we can just make up our mind. I cannot go back in time. I can't change anything, but what I can do right here, right now, I can rebuild. And so I basically just provide men the tools along with my presence to help them unpack and to help them rebuild. And oftentimes rebuilding better than before. But it takes courage. It takes a blueprint. It takes time. It takes an understanding of how important it is to you to rebuild.
When I understand that it's very important to rebuild. Yeah. I mean, wonderful illustration again with the backpack with the bricks in them, and it gets heavier and heavier if we don't utilize those bricks to rebuild something beautiful for ourselves. And we just keep on hurting other people also. It's what I'm understanding. Like, or we let go of wonderful things that could have happened to us because we are going about carrying baggages with us. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I was just thinking about this, I know you're a man of faith and you've experienced all of these things. And what a question that was coming to my mind was, how has all of this experience, affected or influenced your relationship with God, going through experiencing losses, grief, incarceration, all of that? How has it affected your relationship with God in all these phases of life that you have been in?
Yes. So I'm glad you asked that question for a couple of reasons. While I was away, I memorized over 100 scriptures. I committed to memory. It was a wonderful experience. I was responsible for teaching Bible studies to men. I had the responsibility in teaching men how to write and read. I had the responsibility of men coming to me with their problems, and I was basically a counselor or a coach, rather. I was a coach unbeknownst to me and giving them advice as I began to listen to them and pull out of them the answer that was there all the time. But with all of the scriptures that I memorized and all of the Bible studies that I led and leading men to Christ, afterwards, I had to deal with the reality that I still needed to go through trauma therapy. And it doesn't discount the word. It doesn't discount the power of God. But what it really shows me, if we're not careful, there's so many men, and I was one, that we think that we're fine just because of the memory that holds a manifold number of scriptures, or how well you preach or teach, but there's still untreated trauma that needs to be worked out. And so if not, this is what causes a man to cheat on his wife. If not, this is what causes a man to make certain business decisions that are that's under the guise of misappropriating funds, stealing from people. If not, it began to manifest itself in domestic violence, in that preacher that is beating his wife on Saturday night, but they appear to be the model couple on Sunday morning. And so this is where trauma, coaching, trauma therapy meets the word to be able to transform that wounded soul. And so it really taught me that and again, therapy is something that God instituted. We tend to forget that even Luke, who was a disciple of Christ, was a physician. So even Christ had in his inner circle, he had a doctor. And so we need the best of both worlds. What I believe that God have really done for me through therapy and through implementing all of those scriptures that I had committed to memory, to understand that many afflictions are the righteous, but the Lord delivers them out of them all.
Yeah.
I have learned that what I have gone through is nothing new. It happened to Joseph. He was falsely imprisoned. He was sold into slavery by his brothers. He was working in Potiphar's house. He was accused of sexually assaulting a woman that he was running from her advancements. And she got mad about that. She told a lie. And this man spent years in prison. Jeremiah, he spent time in prison. John the Baptist spent time in prison. And the one that we follow, for those who follow Christianity, who follow Christ, we follow one who was also in prison. Christ was on death row and executed. So it shows me how much I have in common, even with the characters of the Bible. And out of that, I can pull the confidence. Out of that, I can pull the power out of those episodes and true stories to apply to my life along with therapy. And the scriptures come alive in me to renew my mind, the parts of me that was damaged by trauma.
Yeah.
And so that's something that really means a lot to me, and how we can take the best of both worlds, both spiritually and practically, and marry them together for one great result in our lives.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I also believe that the word of God renews our mind, and we also need the therapist to help us through our situations to walk through all the trauma that we've, experienced. And we need all the tools, basically, spiritually, physically, in every realm possible.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's also why the Bible says we should not forsake the guardian of the brethren, also because it's not about reading the Bible alone. You have to seek counsel, you have to speak with people, you have to, find community. Wow, Zion, I've learned a lot from you from this conversation. But before I let you go, what is one question you believe we should all ask ourselves regularly as we walk towards healing, freedom, and becoming who we are created to be?
Yes, absolutely. An outstanding question to meditate on. I think that out of all the questions that we can ask ourselves, the number one question that will center us, challenge us, who am I? When you normally meet someone new you never met before, okay, well, what is your name? Well, my name is Ron. Well, my name is Toby. The second question, well, where do you work? Or what do you do? Instead of who are you? Who cares what do you do? It doesn't matter. Who are you? Because that gets to the bare essence of who you truly are and what you believe yourself to be. Are you trauma? Are you, childhood abuse? Are you are you an addict? Or are you a man of God? Are you a woman of God? Are you a person of character? Are you a person of integrity? Are you a person of resilience, always bouncing back regardless of what comes your way? Are you an encourager? Do you have a good, who are you? And when we ask ourselves that question, it's like we're standing in front of a mirror and we are responsible for the answer. Who am I?
Yeah. Who am I? That's a very deep question. Who am I? It's going to be a reflection of basically to me. Yeah. A reflection of myself to myself back. Yeah. Yeah.
Me too.
Who am I? I'm going to keep myself occupied with that question and ask myself. Wow. Thank you so much. I know there are a lot of people out there who still have more questions to ask you, get to know about your work better, get to know about your books. We didn't get to even talk about all the books that you have written. So for people out there who want to, get to know more about you, what's the best way to connect and work with you?
Absolutely. So you can find me at just one place, theshamefreelife.com, theshamefreelife.com. You can go there. You can purchase my books. Also, I have ebooks that are downloadable. I have a free ebook that I want you to have. I know it's going to be a blessing to you, especially the men. It's absolutely free. If you would like one-on-one coaching or group coaching. I have a community that's entitled Samson Restored, where we get together, we talk things out, we work things out, we support one another. It's like a type of church, because wherever two or three gathered, he's already there in the midst.
Yes.
And you can book a discovery call just to see if we are a good connection. I would love to work with you. The discovery call, it is absolutely free, as well as the free ebook. Just go to theshamefreelife.com.
theshamefreelife.com. I'm going to place a link to your website in the show notes of this episode. So I encourage everyone out there to click on the link, copy the link, and reach out to you, to get some coaching. You also, like you said already, personal coaching in different areas when it comes to shame recovery, it comes to manhood restored, everything that we've talked about in this conversation. I think you go into much more depth out there, helping men and helping everyone out there to, overcome adversity and to, get their healing or get on their healing journey. I really appreciate this wonderful conversation. That's been a blessing.
Thank you.
Learning from you, learning from your story. And I love the fact that you use a lot of illustrations that are very relatable, and I was able to visualize them and understand them better. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a wonderful experience, and you're doing a great work, not just on camera, but you're doing a good work in the community. And thank you so much for spreading the love and the hope.
Thank you.
Aletheia Companion is now live on the App Store. A calm biblical wisdom companion for money, work, purpose, generosity, stewardship, and life decisions. It helps you slow down, reflect, seek wisdom, and take one faithful next step before pressure makes the decision for you. Download it today and leave an honest review if it speaks to you. Thank you.
If this conversation resonated with you, consider following or subscribing to Mirror Talk on your favorite podcast platform. You can also support the show by sharing this episode with someone who might need it, and by leaving a 5-star rating. It helps these conversations reach more people who could benefit from them.
Thank you very much.